Hello everybody, this is ManuS and welcome to my very first The Legends of Runeterra deck tech. I decided to start recording some of the decks that I have been brewing and playing with during the preview patch to give you an idea of what is going on in the game and show you some cool, more successful decks that I have been messing with and provide you with some impressions and gameplay of this pretty cool and promising looking new game while we are waiting for the next preview event and finally the closed beta in the beginning of 2020. I decided to go for deck techs with gameplay, my typical format, instead of giving you like this sort of very basic introductory video of how the game works, because the game works fairly simple and fairly self-explanatory if you're not new to card games. It just has some elements from the big card games like Magic the Gathering, Hearthstone, and to some extent the sort of Artifact, Soulforge versus system type of games in a way. So so we're gonna dive right into like full-on content. So I'm going to show you the first deck that I want to talk about here. It's an almost mono Demacia deck. I called it Elite Aggro. It's trying to take advantage of the elite synergies that are provided within Demacia, and the Allegiance 4-drop is the reason for like going heavy into into Demacia and just like a light splash currently, but there are a couple of possible options that you could go with this. Anyway, you know the drill. Hit the subscribe button, and if you want to see more in the future of this game and other games that I cover, and of course if you enjoy the content, hit the like button and share it with your friends. So now on to the deck. Alright. There we go. So this is the deck. Basically we have a bunch of 1-drops here, 3 1-drops, full 3 of each. They're just our aggressive opener. As you can see, deck size is 40 cards, opening hand size is 4, so having like 3 1-drops is the minimum I would want to have in a curvy aggressive deck to ensure that you almost always can play a 1-drop by turn 1 between like your regular draw and mulligans. Then I have 1 Radiant Strike, just to sort of fill out the curve. It's a cheap trick that can decide combat, nicely swing the board in your favor, make some use of spell mana, but I'm not sure if it's ideal. Like for example, it could be possible that this should just be, where is it? Here, Brother's Bond. This card's really strong, but it's more clunky, and the deck is using its power very efficiently, so it doesn't accumulate a whole lot of spell mana. Because if you accumulate spell mana for free, you can run more expensive spells because they suddenly become kind of free. But this deck doesn't really do that much, so spells cost regular mana, and then I'm not sure how useful this is. Sure, it has some nice energy with the challengers, but usually I didn't feel like my units had much issue with like sizing, especially because this also doesn't provide any health, so it doesn't keep your stuff alive, it just makes your stuff trade better or hit harder. But all in all, I think the card's very powerful, but this might be more what the deck cares about. But that's one of the cards that I am having in the back of my mind in small numbers as like a 1 or 2 of maybe. Also keep in mind this is not a Demacia card, so if you hit it with your Allegiance 4-drop, you don't get the Allegiance bonus, which is also pretty relevant. Then we have the 2-drops, Battlesmiths, very powerful 2-drop with all the elites. If this just survives for a turn and then you start churning out elites, or you play this with an elite in the same turn, you're getting really good value. Then we have Lucian, the only champion that I currently chose to run. Yes, I'm only running 3 champions of the 6 that I can, since I like all the other cards better than additional champions, especially additional Demacian champions. That's right, even Fiora because the deck is not really built to support Fiora very well, and without support she's not that exciting. She's just like a 3/3 challenger, which is not that great, and we already have a lot of 3 drops that we need, either because they are elites for elite synergy and just pretty powerful, like these two are just 2-for-1s, and Senna because she's really strong. She's kind of like a champion without actually being a champion, and she's also necessary to make Lucian better, so she's kind of like champion 4 to 6. And yeah, and then we have Warchefs, which I prefer currently over Bright Steel Protector. Initially I thought Barrier is permanent like Divine Shield in Hearthstone, but it isn't, it's just for 1 turn, and that makes it a lot less exciting, while this as a 2/3 is pretty good on offense and defense, and since we're not hyper aggressive, being good on defense is not completely irrelevant, and also on offense this effectively combined has stats of like 3/4 instead of like 3/2, and also has a great synergy with the quick draw units, the like quick attack units, making them able to attack into bigger stuff, and especially with all the challengers, just giving you a lot of challenger power basically, especially because the temporary buff soaks up the damage. So if you, for example, give Lead Feather Tracker +1/+1 and kill something, or like challenge something that has 1 attack, you basically like eat that damage for free the same way you would with like a barrier, because it's just going to be subtracted from the temporary buff, and then if the buff goes away your tracker is still a 2/1, kind of like in Hearthstone. Not like in Magic where if the buff then goes away your unit would just die. Yeah, making this a pretty powerful unit. Sure, there's a bit of a downside that the opponent can just block it with something bigger, so if this cannot attack freely, it cannot buff and stuff, but all in all I think this is a pretty powerful 2-drop and I've been really happy with it. Then we're on to the 3-drops. We have Senna, just a strong 3-drop, nice aggressive, 4 power, quick attacker for 3 is really strong, really obnoxious, and even on defense she trades well and then makes the Lucian flip, so if you go Lucian into Senna, you will often end up just trading with Senna on defense to flip your Lucian and then go crazy. And then we have Vanguard Redeemer. It's just a 3-cost 3/3 elite, nothing special, that's fine, but yeah, if an ally died this round, when you summon a Redeemer, you suddenly get to draw an ally, get to draw a unit. I'm not 100% sure how it works, but it seems like it's drawing a unit from your deck. So it's drawing yeah, a unit out of your deck, basically tutors a random unit. It hasn't so far given me a random unit that's not in my deck, and it also seems like it's not generating the unit out of thin air. The animation makes it come from your deck. So I think it basically just a bit like ambiguously worded, saying you draw a random unit from your deck basically, which is pretty strong really. Like the deck is a bit more of a bigger, grindier aggro deck in a way. It's a bit like White Weenie in Magic, to the extent that you can compare it, because this game, while having some Magic elements, still plays fundamentally different. To Magic it plays a lot closer to, say, Hearthstone, but gives it more depth and more yeah, interplay and strategy than Hearthstone. So it's kind of, but at its like core, the way games play out and feel, it's closer to Hearthstone than to Magic, I would argue. Then we have Vanguard Sergeant, another really powerful 3-cost 3/3 that lets you draw a For Demacia for free when you play it. For Demacia is 6 power, 6 mana. All your units get +3+, all your allies get +3/+3 this round, which is basically an overrun type effect, thanks to like spell mana that you might have stored up in the mid game. You can even sometimes play this on like turn 5 or play it alongside a unit later in the game and stuff like that. It just does really powerful stuff and usually gives you a great alpha strike that forces the opponent to jump block, throw away their board, to not die, and then you're really far ahead. and unless the opponent has a sweeper, they basically have no end up in a lose-lose situation. And of course, it's an elite for elite synergies, meaning the Battlesmith as well as the Vanguard Squire that we're going to talk about in a moment. Then we have another elite. This is particularly great with Battlesmith. First of all, you instead of like 4-2 instead, you get 6-4 instead, so this gets buffed, effectively buffed twice by Battlesmith because it's 2 bodies, which is great. Also getting like 2-3 challengers in one card is super powerful, both for like grinding, trading 2 for 1, as well as pushing through like your bigger units and stuff like that, or setting up a trigger of a flipped Lucian, making sure that you have an ally dying by just challenging something bigger and letting your challenger die, and so on and so forth. So yeah, this card pretty strong. Also obviously 2 bodies is great for Vanguard Sergeant. Just overall pretty powerful elite unit. Then we have Vanguard Bannerman. This is the Allegiance card, also an elite. Also noteworthy here, which may not be obvious, it buffs itself. So basically it's a 4-cost 4/4 if you have Allegiance, and as you saw, we only have like 1 non-Demacia card just to make our turn 1 stronger. Basically I figured like a light splash doesn't hurt, and since we are aggressive, getting the best aggressive 1-drop in the game in the deck seemed like a good plan. And yeah, Bannerman then gives all allies +1/+1, including itself, so it's a 4/4 and buffs your entire board. Once again, putting your board potentially out of reach for your opponent, and then if you have a Battlesmith out, it even becomes a 5/5 and so on and so forth. So yeah, pretty powerful card, and that and Battlesmith were kind of the reason why I started building the deck. When I looked at those cards and the elite synergies, it kind of comes together quickly and you end up with like an almost mono Demacia deck. Then we have Vanguard Squire. That's arguably the card that I'm least sure of. In theory it seems nice because if this costs 0, 1 or 2, it's pretty good for a 3/3, especially because it's an elite with Battlesmith. The problem is, first of all, it only gets reduced in cost when it's in your hand, so you have it. So if it's in your deck and you play an elite, it doesn't get affected, making copies that you draw in the mid game and later pretty weak. So, second of all, you have to basically hold it in your opening hand on your mulligan for that reason, which can be really awkward, especially if, say, you mulligan the other 3 cards and you don't draw a lot of elites, then suddenly you have this underwhelming card. But obviously the high roll is pretty strong, getting this down in cost and just playing multiple things in a turn and having an explosive board development is great. So I'm still testing them. If they don't pan out, I could see just playing more 2-drops, for example, considering Blightsteel Protector, maybe playing some single combats, or just Vanguard Defenders because they are elites, so they get buffed by Battlesmith. And also if they get buffed by Bannerman, they are pretty nice because of the tough. So there are a couple of things, but on their own they're kind of underwhelming because, you know, 2-cost 2/2 or like a 2-cost 2/3 effectively, or sort of better than a 2-cost 2/3 is kind of underwhelming in an aggressive deck. Like I want my units to hit a bit harder and have a bit more impact. I don't think we want any 3-cost cards. There's obviously still the option of running some Brothers Bond, for example. Not sure if I would want to dip deeper into Noxus, probably not, because losing out on Allegiance is too risky. Just really powerful effect. Could consider running like Ethetria again. I had one at some point, but didn't really get there that often, because on 6 you often have like your 4 Demacia, or just do multiple things. But she is pretty powerful, so I could totally see having her in the deck. And it's also possible that maybe Vanguard Squire is decent, but maybe you don't want all 3 of them. Not sure, that's stuff that needs to be figured out in the future. And last but not least, we have Swift Wing Lancer. This card seems pretty powerful. First of all, it is a big challenger unit, so it both allows you to challenge small units and kill them, and be a 2-for-1 by trading and giving you an elite. Also, it gives you an elite. It's not an elite itself, unfortunately, but it gives you an elite for your Battlesmith elite synergies and stuff. And yeah, it also allows you to just like use it as removal against big units that otherwise would eat your small units and cause you problems, or that you just need to get rid of because they are problematic. Just a powerful curve topper, really, that also gives you interaction attached to a unit and more grind potential. The deck has a lot of inherent grind potential, really, between like Redeemer, Sergeant, Lancer, Vanguard. It's pretty impressive, and has been doing really well, plus like onboard 2-for-1 stuff with like buffs and challenger units and so on. But yeah, there are a couple of options here still. I don't know, maybe like one judgment could be a consideration. It's pretty expensive and might be like unnecessary for like how aggressive the deck is, but it's an option to consider as just like a one-off blowout type thing. If we go down on 4s, because we only have like these actual 4s, maybe considering a few Blade Keepers could be an option, although they are not an elite and they don't play that well in the deck. But yeah, there are a couple of considerations really to try out if the Vanguard Squire doesn't pan out, or want to try alternatives to like Radiant Strike. I'm pretty happy and confident in most of the other cards though. Anyway, that is the list for now, and as usual we're gonna hop into some games to show you the deck in action, and yeah, show you how to aggro in Legends of Runeterra. So stay tuned for game number 1 in a moment.